So we live with Lance Shabazz, man, the famous Lance Shabazz show. How you doing, man? And before,
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you, man. I was anticipating scheduling the interview for later on down the road, and I appreciate you being spontaneous and helping me on this project, man. It genuinely means a lot. It genuinely means a lot to be so spontaneous. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I certainly don't mind telling the little history that we know.
So, you were born and raised in the Nation of Islam, correct? With your father and your uncle?
Yes, my grandmother, my aunt, my uncles. Yes, I was born in 1958. And yes, I grew up in the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah. And as you were growing up, what were some of the things or life lessons that you can take from the Nation of Islam that you actually implemented into your life?
Well, first of all, the clean living, no drinking, no smoking, trying to be polite. And, I always wore nice suits, but, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to be clean internally, externally, to walk with a nice step, to make sure you look lively. We didn't walk with our heads, lowered. We held our head high. We weren't no Negroes, no coons and none of that. We considered ourselves, a black man.
Sure.
And no matter what, we were black and white America, and certainly the condition in America was poor. But, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, under his teachings, he taught us that we were good, that we would be, the rulers, that we, kept the best part of the planet and the best part of ourselves ever since we known it. And once you knew that you were the original man, you just wanted to do better. So as a child growing up, I just always wanted to excel. Mm-hmm. And so as a young man, 16 years of age, I was part owner of a restaurant.
Yeah, I saw that.
And, I did a lot of stuff in the Nation of Islam as far as selling, the newspapers, the fish, the sardines, the holding posts, and on until the Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed in February of 1975.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't get a chance to meet Elijah Muhammad, but your uncle, your dad, and your grandmother, maybe? Did they meet him?
Yes, they all have got to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in person. I did not see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He came to New York on June the 28th of 1964. And I still don't know why my parents didn't take me. I don't know if it was the climate with, it's supposed to have been a showdown between Malcolm had a meeting and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that I would learn later.
It was that day. It was that day when they went to the mosque.
He came to 369th Street Army.
Yeah, got that.
So I assume maybe that's why he probably didn't want me being so young at that time. He probably just didn't want any children with him that day. Mm-hmm. But I never understood that. I wish I was there, and probably felt that I would see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again, but he never came to New York after that.
Okay. Was that the meeting with Elijah Muhammad Jr.?
Well, Elijah Muhammad Jr. traveled with his father.
Yeah.
So he, if you're alluding to what comments people said that he had spoke to about 700 members of the Fruit of Islam, and when he said that, allegedly said that Malcolm head should have, he should have been cut, his tongue should have been cut out and put in an envelope, and he would seal it and he would stamp it approved and give it to his father. Those are the stories that I've heard. Uh-huh. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad definitely was there, and he spoke. And he said that June 28, 1964, that Muslims do not quarrel in public. He was alluding to Malcolm. Uh-huh. He said Muslims don't fight with one another. Uh-huh. So, that was the talk then from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, yes. Uh-huh. But that was that date, June the 28th, at the 369th Street Army, which was held in Harlem on 42nd Street and 5th Avenue.
Yeah, right. So do you hold that alleged quote to be true, or is just hearsay as it pertains to Elijah Muhammad Jr.? We
were taught at the end of every one of our meetings that we are not to be the transgressors, but if anybody attacked us or molested us, we had to fight, and may Allah grant us the victory. So we didn't turn the other cheek. So I believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a proper guide for us. He gave the right guidance. Whether Others took it upon themselves, because, you know how they say in the hood that you don't talk about my parents, you don't talk about my mama.
Yeah.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was like a parent to us.
Right.
And we loved him. And Malcolm was one who at that time had deviated, even though the real matter of it, he was put out of the Nation of Islam, but he had begun to attack the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad felt that Malcolm was really going to repent, but others may have, with the help of the government and other agencies, they eventually did what they did.
Now, the creation of the Nation of Islam was with W.D. Farad, correct? And what do you know about him, his ethnicity, where did he come from? What did your parents teach you about him?
Well, my parents so much didn't teach me, but what I learned by attending Muhammad's Temple of Islam was that he was born on February the 26th, 1877, from the holy city of Mecca, and that he was in and out of America for about 20 years, living out there where you are interviewing me from, out in California. Some say he even taught at a university out there, but he came to Michigan, in Black Bottom, Michigan, in around the 1930s. This is what the history that we were told, and that he was teaching. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's wife and his brother had heard the Savior, and they wanted the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to hear him. And so they went and got him. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he was so low down in the mud that the only thing was sticking up was his eyeballs, to show you that how bad he was, that he was depressed, that he used to drink, and all of these things before he met Master Farad Muhammad, who we call Master Farad Muhammad. And that one, he called the Holy One. He said when he first met him that he said to him that you are the one that was in the scriptures, the one that he had read about. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that Master Farad Muhammad told him, who all knows this? And he said, basically, don't say that. Well, when he began to teach that, don't teach that, but you could wait till after I'm gone, and then you could tell him what you want. But so that's what I learned about Master Farad Muhammad, that he was one who had accepted cards and gave out, it was $1 and they got a name. He had given out many names. And that's the history. Started in Detroit. That was mosque number 1. Number 2 was in Chicago, and number 3 was in Milwaukee. Those were the beginning ones. And as you know, after he left, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went on to establish 4 in Washington, D.C., 5 in Cincinnati, 6 in Baltimore, 7 in New York, 8 in San Diego, 9 in Youngstown, Ohio, 10 in Atlantic City, 11 in Boston, 12 Philadelphia, 13 Springfield, Mass, 14 Hartford, Connecticut, 15 Atlanta, Georgia, and you can go on and on.
Yeah. Do you subscribe to that? Farad Muhammad was he went to prison in San Quentin, then got kicked out of Detroit, and then went to Chicago. What do you know about that history, and how does that correlate to him being a god?
This is what we were told. The FBI files and others say that this one was had a restaurant, that he was selling drugs, that he went to San Quentin, all of those things we had read, but that's not what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us. But even if it was true, we know that wherever he went to save people and to learn, sometimes he had to go through it to teach, to learn. Remember, he was learning 42 years. It took him to learn his own mission. So as I said, he had to go through a lot. And maybe that did happen, but it doesn't matter. It's not what you were, it's what you are. Every one of us, as I used to say, that every sinner, has a past, and every saint has a future. So, or every vice versa, as they say. So I believe that one was a holy one who taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Here's a man that just completed the 3rd grade.
Got it.
He didn't know much, he struggled to learn. I know some say the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was well read in the Bible, but he wasn't, because his father was a preacher. But no, he said that he didn't know much about it. He just didn't understand certain things. But it wasn't until Master Farad Muhammad taught him. And not only did he teach him, but he said all of his family, they all had accepted him, and they believed him to be the messenger of a God. And so I say that because one man entered the world, meaning Master Farad Muhammad, he presented the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And to me, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the light of the world. He was the one who taught us that we weren't colored, that we were black. It was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad who truly was the light of the world when others was, thinking that you had to be white or get close to whiteness to be God. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught a different theology.
Okay.
So,
okay. And you said Farad took him 42 years to learn. How does that?
Well,
because they say that he was God. He was so. If God is all knowing, why did it take him 42 years to learn?
Well, you may know a lot of things. How long it took you to learn certain things? I may learn certain things. Mm-hmm. These may be things that we were just told that it took him. Just as you go to school, and like I said, there's certain degrees. Why was he enrolled in school? Maybe he just had to go through certain things. But these are things, as I said, that I've heard others say, and I repeat them. Are they 1,000% accurate? This is what we were taught. Mm-hmm. And I've heard them from ministers have said it. And like I said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to me, taught us of Master Muhammad. I try to stay with what I heard that's from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I don't try to go further. I did an interview many years ago, and as I said, that question came up with the all-knowing. And I say again, I only repeat what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There's others sometimes they criticize because they want you to go on and tell you, the atmosphere, the hemisphere. I don't do that. I just tell you what I heard, and I move forward with it. You can accept it or reject it. As I said, the right religion is the one that works for you, and this works for me.
Got that. Now,
I don't have all the answers. I'm just a student of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it works for me. So anything I say, this comes from Lance Shabazz. It doesn't, there may be someone who's more articulate or someone who may be more eloquent, but I have over 60 years of experience in this, and this is what's worked for me.
No, I totally understand that, but I was trying to get the theological perspective, because if he was God and Elijah was the messenger, what do they need to learn? You get what I'm saying? Like,
there are Christians who say Jesus is Lord. What did Jesus teach you? In his 30 plus years on this planet, was he the best knower? What did he teach you? So you look at these things and you take it for what it's worth.
Oh, got that.
And that's how I look at it.
Now,
all of these. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, continue, please. It's your interview.
No, I think with all of these so-called ones who say that they know God, they went to some theological place, but all I know is I'm a simple man. You point to me and tell me that this is what happened, and I see it, then I believe it. I know the books say believe in the seen and the unseen, but I'm a simple man.
When you say you have over 60 years of experience. Now, when you look back at the foundation of it, with Farad Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad, how do you view it now based off of the teachings that you learned as a child?
I think that it's different degrees. You don't see the things that I saw 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years. I don't see it the same, but I know that that's the correct method. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we may have misapplied or learned it incorrect, just because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, listen, he spent 22 weeks teaching the theology of time in 1972. I'm speaking of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He taught us from, I believe it was June the 4th, all the way to October the 29th of 1972, when they were dedicating that mosque in Chicago at 7351 South Stony Island. But he went into the origin, the theology of time. Theology, a Greek word which means the study of time. And he taught that. Some of us was there, some of us heard it and listened to it. Some of us didn't understand it. Some of us went in another direction after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had departed in 1975. So it's different degrees. You ask me how I look at things now. I have now experienced a lot. And I've looked at it, and before I always used to have, though we say we didn't have any idols, but I was a man who just loved the ministers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And as I said, I would love listening to them. I didn't so much know Malcolm pretty much because I was only about 5 or 6 years old when he had left the Nation of Islam. But I'll say this much, but the ministers, the minister James McGregor, James Shabazz out of Newark, New Jersey. There was Brother Lewis 6X. There was Brother Willie, George 7X. There was just ministers, Minister Jeremiah Pugh. It was just so many ministers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that I heard growing up, Minister Troy and others, Minister Larry 4X. Prescott. It was just so many ministers that I heard of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I loved them all. I loved them all. I could recite lectures that they did as a young boy back then. Now I'm older. I look back at things and I say, we have to get some of this earth that we can call our own, is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught. And it's still applicable today. We look at what happened in the city of in Detroit. We look at what happened in Flint, Michigan. Muslims who followed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he told us years ago to store what foods to eat, what foods to store away. He taught us what to put our money aside. If every individual would have listened to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and had their own personal 3-year economic program, they could have got some real estate. They could have gotten some businesses. But you see, the Muslims, they're the same thing with this COVID pandemic and everything. We fall victim. When Michigan went bankrupt with Dave Bing and all others who was in Michigan, the Muslims should have been in a place here. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teacher, Master Farad Muhammad, was in Detroit. And that was number one. Here, we had all sorts of other individuals, immigrants, Muslims who bought up Dearborn and other sections of Michigan, and where you could have gotten that property for little or nothing. But we didn't listen to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So when I look at things now, I don't so much listen today for what they say. I look at what is being done.
Got that. No, totally. And now, as we sidestep to Malcolm, what did you know about Malcolm as a standalone from the Nation of Islam growing up as a child?
All right. I heard Malcolm was a hypocrite. I always was heard that Malcolm was a hypocrite. And so one time, I don't remember the year, but there was a lieutenant named James C-14X, was it James? Well, whatever, Brother Lieutenant James in New York. I was in high school. I normally go to the satellite. We had a satellite mosque, temple, I should say, at 10731 Sufton Boulevard in Jamaica, Queens, which is now the house of Swam, which is the sensei is Mutakabir, a martial art genius. But that was our home. And I went there one day after stopping on Jamaica Avenue near Sufton Boulevard, picking up a hardcover of the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I put it in my, carrying bag. I got to the satellite mosque. I normally held post, but that lieutenant, they found the book in my check when we went through the check post. And this Lieutenant James had after I went and sat down, he called me to the side and, he jumped in my face basically saying, "You love this hypocrite, Malcolm. You do." And I was, "No, sir, no, sir, no, sir." And that just fueled me more to say that I have to speak out against Malcolm. So every time I heard Malcolm, he's a hypocrite, without really doing any investigation. I didn't really even know too much about the wives thing until many years later when Minister Farrakhan and them really brought that out. But I didn't pay that any attention, But so when you say Malcolm standalone, he was basically a hypocrite to me up until after when the rebuilding part of the nation came back, which
1981.
Fast forward. No, the rebuilding actually started in the Minister Farrakhan says in 1977, but we'll say 1978 that he began to rebuild the Nation of Islam, and he had went through California. There was out there you should know Yusuf Bey in Oakland, and Tainetta Muhammad was. Tainetta Denard was one of the secretaries of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Mrs. Farrakhan went through there, and her daughter and them all was with Yusuf Bey, and she came aboard, and he had a labor's meeting a few years later where he said that Tainetta Muhammad was a wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's the first time I heard it, that she was a wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he would say another sister, Evelyn. I mean, I may have read it, but I didn't really, just read that, but I didn't pay it much attention. So I began to look into that. Well, the same thing when Wallace D. Muhammad had taken over the Nation of Islam, he assumed the leadership of the Nation of Islam on February 25th or 26th of 1975. I started doing my investigation and I started looking at I looked up everything, and I always was a collector. So I had collected a lot of that material. So when you asked me about Malcolm, I began to look at things, and then I started understanding some of it. And I always wanted to know why he was a hypocrite, but no one really, they would just say he was a hypocrite. But no, I would not broach that idea under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's time. But when February of 1976, a year after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had departed, I was in that same mosque, 102 West 116th Street,
wow.
sitting on the floor, that same mosque, and we learned that Wallace D. Muhammad had renamed the mosque Malcolm Shabazz Mosque. It was formerly Muhammad's Temple of Islam number 7, the Mother Temple. And I sat there, and those in the area around me, I can't remember who was seated behind me, I said out loud, well, not out loud, but within hearing distance. I said, what, you got to burn down a building to get the name on it? Because all I knew, Malcolm was a hypocrite. Now we're honoring him. And not only that, we raised money to rebuild something. And if anything, it should be what it was, Muhammad's temple. That wasn't Malcolm's temple. Malcolm was just a stand-in. He always said when he was doing a radio broadcast, he was substituting for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He may have been the national representative, but he was just there in place of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's the way we were taught when Minister Farrakhan came in. You know, we always knew the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the leader. Minister Farrakhan wasn't the first one that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had to use after Malcolm. There was John Ali. He did the national broadcast. You say you interviewed him, he'll tell you he did the national broadcast. There was a brother out of Washington named Lonnie 3X Cross. He did the radio broadcast. Then Minister Farrakhan would do it. And all of this is history that many of us don't know. But Malcolm, he did a good job. I learned that when I did my documentary on Malcolm, that he did a good job. He actually did a very good job, but he became disillusioned. And I can understand that personally now because, I had, worked in the Nation of Islam. When you work hard and you want to be recognized here, you helped start the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Now the paper that you started, they then took it, took that from New York, moved it to Chicago, and then, start reducing, not putting your name in the paper. He felt pressures. He felt pressures from the assistant ministers, Henry X. Dawson, and he felt pressure from Captain Joseph X. Gravitt, who was Captain Yusuf Shah. So there's a lot of pressure going on, and pressure could either make you or it could break you. And what many Malcolm lovers don't realize, Malcolm was a young man. He was in his late 20s, early 30s. He died just a few months after, he was 38 years old, just a few months, prior to 39, before he turned 39, I believe. Right. So he was a young man, and he had a lot of pressures. A lot of this revisionist Malcolm, I know I was a part of that ARC Media presentation of Who Killed Malcolm, but a lot of it is they don't look carefully into that. They make Betty Shabazz as if she was such a martyr with Malcolm. She had separated from him on 3 occasions. He got married to her January the 14th in 1958. And he passed February 21st, 1965. So you take those 7 years, she separated from him 3 years. She used to give him hell. I have interviews with his secretary, James Warden, 67X Warden, who became Abdul Razak. I have interviews with others who told me how one of the reasons Malcolm was speaking so much on the road, he didn't want to stay in that house with us. These are things that I was told. So you have to look at the whole thing. There's a young man, sometimes a woman can drive you crazy. They can drive you crazy. And now I'm saying Betty, it could have been Sister Evelyn X. Williams. He had a relationship with her prior. And it's so much that went on. And when you have those pressures, so I began to understand some of Malcolm. And actually, I said he was a good man in one sense. And I really wish he wasn't assassinated. But again, it happened. And the Nation of Islam has been blamed for that from the beginning. But there were other ministers. There's a brother that was in Houston, Texas, that was murdered, Minister Raymond. I mean, he was an Arabic teacher. He did so much good work for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and with Minister Farrakhan. There are others who were murdered. Malcolm is highlighted because they used Malcolm's name. And I believe because he was a strong worker. And not only that, Malcolm, was also, you got to realize, he came from the street. So he had a lot of street in him. He knew what he was doing. And I ask anybody, here's a man that had what's his name, Robert Higgins or whoever was the photographer. He had his own photographer. He always knew how to publicize himself for publicity.
Mm-hmm.
He had a sister that I believe Manny Marable had written about in his book,
mm-hmm.
about a sister that I knew pretty well, Sharon Poole, or Sharon, they call her Sharon 6X Shabazz in a few of the writings. But she told me that Malcolm would call her on a regular basis, for he wanted her to monitor the news, the CBS, the ABC, the NBC, and any newspapers. And he always save him the articles, let him know right away. She says that's all he was more concerned about that. He loved to go to the students because he loved the crowd of the students and
sure.
on the universities. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to him once in a letter that I believe I have, that he said, how many converts you making going? You running all over
the
how
converts,
many converts are you getting? Yeah. So, these were some of the things. And, so I see the good in Malcolm, but I also know he was young. Minister Jeremiah told me Malcolm had a habit of pointing when he was at the table of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and they said that was disrespectful, and sometimes he would correct him. So there was certain things about Malcolm. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad disciplined Malcolm before that suspension. Malcolm used that because they didn't allow him to come back after the 90 days. He had requested to come to the 64 convention and others. And another thing, he got on I believe it was Philadelphia, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm and Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Marcellus Clay at the time, they traveled together to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad while Malcolm was under suspension. Right. And Muhammad Ali told him, he says, you can't come here. So they separated. It's just so many things that went on. There's so many things that went on when you look at it. You have to ask yourself, Malcolm's own brothers, Philbert and Wilbert, they thought so much that they didn't even go around Malcolm. They made a lot of statements later after the Honorable Elijah Muhammad trying to retract it, but that's what most of them did, But so I have, I'm going a long way with this, but I'm just saying that Malcolm to me, again, he did some good work. He did some great work, but he's not the holy man everybody believes he is. He was vindictive. He said in a letter that I have somewhere around here to Wallace Muhammad, when Wallace told him about his father, and Malcolm says, you're not ruthless enough to deal with him. I am. He was talking about the man's father, what he was going to do with him. And like I said, Wallace Muhammad said it in March of 1993, that broadcast that aired here in New York City by Gil Noble, Like It Is. He said that Malcolm tricked him, told him to come. He wanted to meet him, and he said he had the two sisters with him, and they were going to go to court. And they met, and they met with someone, and Wallace said that Malcolm, I didn't sign for this, basically. And he said he left. He left Malcolm there with those two secretaries. So Malcolm was trying to do a lot of underhanded stuff. He told Minister Farrakhan in a phone conversation, Brother Lewis, I can get them on the phone and you could hear what they say. I mean, he was trying to manipulate. Minister Lewis 6X told me what he did. I mean, so he says publicly that I dare not go near the Muslims. I know my place. He said he didn't try to go after the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but I spoke to 6 or 7 personally who told me he did try to convert them and to go with him. So he was trying to undermine the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's where I believe his hypocrisy showed more. And the same with Wallace D. Muhammad, who would become the leader of the Nation of Islam. He left his father in 64, 63, he said. He came back in 67. He left his father again, you know, and yet he tried to start his own organization, his own movement. But he'll tell you in a speech that I was at in 1977 in the Felt Forum that he had it hard. He had to wash windows for 25 cents a window. He told these stories, and I know sometimes I'll just, you got me riled up. I can go on and on.
No, keep going. Keep going.
Brother, it's all right. Where are we going with this? So you get me riled up. I start talking about Wallace. I didn't like Wallace Muhammad, and I'll say this publicly, and you can take it for what it's worth. I understood. I love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad so much, and I love the community called the Nation of Islam so much. And I was 21, 22, whatever age I was in 1980 And after I saw Wallace Muhammad tear down the Nation of Islam, call it the World Community of Islam, World Community of Al-Islam, he said he was the Supreme Minister, the Chief Minister, the President. He said he was all of these things, but meanwhile, he was closing down the community. It filed bankruptcy. At my age then, in 1980, 81, if someone would have solicited me to take Wallace D. Muhammad out, it didn't take me much convincing, because I thought you're just like a cancer. You have to kill it before it tears the body up. So I understand that. If that's understood, and I don't make any apologies for it, because at that time all I saw was Muslims, Kenneth 15X and others, laying out on the street. They just bugged out because they couldn't understand a man who they thought was the messenger of God, who we didn't believe was going to die, because Allah had brought him close to death several times, and he came back with his illness. So we didn't believe he was going to go. And then for another man to come up and then within a year tear him down, take the chairs out of the mosque, to change the mosque names. He started naming Wali Muhammad Mosque #1 and #2, Honorable Elijah Muhammad Mosque #3, the Sultan Kareem. He started naming the mosque, changing the masters, changing our history. And right before us, he was doing this, and we said, this bum didn't do anything to build this nation. He walked in a bow tie or a long tie and talked that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, here's a man that's 130 pounds, and from Clare, Georgia, and he said, he would honor the chair, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he's tore it down gradually. And one day he bragged and said he was putting the last nail in the coffin of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That Wallace D. Muhammad, who came into the Nation of Islam, a bum, who had to have some Muslims move him in 6 months before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad passed. He made his move. He came around. He came January 18th, 1975, right there in Harlem, and told us that he was going to be the next leader. He came there with the captain from Los Angeles, Edward Tuag, known as Shotgun Sherrill, who later would become the Imam, the Ali Rashid. He came there with Abbas Rasul, who was the national secretary. And he told us, wearing this gray suit that day, talking that smack that, he was going to be the next leader, and that Minister Farrakhan could keep his position as the national representative, basically, if he went along with it. But if he didn't, he said he would lose his position. And if 10,000 of you didn't like it, you just had to get used to it. This is that same Wallace D. Muhammad who made his move while Muhammad was sick, like Absalom. The man, like I said, I can just go on and on about him, because it hurt me personally to see brothers and sisters who loved the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's why, going back to Malcolm, I could understand. Malcolm started saying the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he wasn't even a man. When you say something like that to somebody who that has been taking care of the Nation of Islam, nobody was as charitable as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He would give away thousands of dollars. When that brother got hurt in Los Angeles, he gave him the vehicle and everything. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad would send money to make sure that individuals were taking care of the Nation of Islam. He took care of tons of them. Minister James, Minister John Muhammad, who was John X, who was the captain that Malcolm mentioned, that was in Springfield, Mass. Told me how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would put cash in his hands, $100 on bills, just a stack of them. He took care of his ministers, and he told them he thanked them for his labor. He was a humble man. And like I said, none of us was perfect. If the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did have relations, so what? Because we know that we weren't Americans. We were Muslims. And in the Muslim society, you have more than one wife. In the African society, they have thousands of them. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't find. Malcolm knew this stuff. He wanted to run all over Africa. He knew that. I'm sorry.
No, I'm enjoying, because I'm actually learning a lot. Now, when you say you were upset because of what was happening to the Nation of Islam, how much of blame do you blame on Elijah Muhammad for lack of infrastructure, lack of will, lack of preparation for his death? Being that
I don't blame him. He takes no responsibility. A man teach you for 40 years. What are you supposed to stay here forever? Jesus' ministry, they say 3.5 years, right? I mean, others have just stayed in a few years. You don't have to stay for 40 years. He taught us. He said in his last sermon, for 40 years, I taught you that God was a man. He says, give me nothing. Get on up and do something for yourself. He told us what to do. He showed us what to do. We are the ones. No, I don't blame him for anything. It was our fault. It was our derelict of responsibility. We said that we walk our post in a perfect manner, keeping always on alert. We were supposed to be especially watchful at night, especially during times of meeting. We was not to allow no one to cause a nuisance on and near our post. We said these were our general orders. These were our instructions. What were we saying them for? What were we saying them for when we allowed someone to walk in there and slander the very man who was the foundation that we stood on? No. I don't blame the Honorable Elijah Muhammad one bit. I think that he is ashamed that we would allow it. When before Wallace Muhammad was brought back in 1965, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had him come before the believers, and he apologized. It said that I want to apologize to my father for taking a matter that I should have taken up with him. He said, and I apologize. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad came behind him and said, I told my son, he could not accept him, but we point to the community unless they accept you. And what happened was everybody accepted him February the 26th, 1975. And that was the downfall of the Nation of Islam. That was the destruction of the Nation of Islam. The sales and office building gone, the bank gone, farmland gone. Everything was gone under Wallace D. Muhammad, and our minds were gone. Mm. And brother, I don't talk Islam. I've been very quiet. But you got me riled up, and I'm up there perspiring now, thinking of that. And I had to walk away from this because psychologically it was messing with me. And so I left a lot of this alone. I did a book called Blood, Sweat, and Tears, The Nation of Islam in Me. I put it out, and I said I was moving on, and I basically not been pretty much in the public. And, when you contacted me for this interview, you caught me kind of on the spot. I said, let's just do it.
Let's do it. Now,
yeah, I just said, let's do it. But you get me riled up. And,
like I
said, my name, Lance Shabazz, I am the Nation of Islam. No matter if I'm never there, I'm the Nation of Islam. So that's in my DNA. And it's organic. It's not nothing phony. There's nothing phony about this. I lived this life, and it is what it is.
Right. Now, you mentioned Elijah Muhammad's wives, and you said you didn't speak of that up until his departure.
And I didn't speak of it because I didn't know of it.
Yeah, you didn't know of it. And you know what's funny? You don't say death, you say departure. It's funny that you say departure. Well,
if you're asking me, I say that because the Quran says, "Speak not of my servants."
Okay. Thank you.
Not. So
Thank you.
That's why I don't say that. I may say he passed in 1975, but no, I don't speak of his servants as being dead. You don't say Jesus is dead. You don't say Moses is dead, or so
gotcha.
You just say Moses.
Yeah, you're right. I never thought about that for that. And you're right. And you're right. Now you mentioned Evelyn Williams. That's an interesting conversation because that's for me, like when I think about that in contemporary terms, I see Elijah Muhammad as being in the wrong. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you because you and I are best friends, right? I say I'm engaged to the girl. I say I don't want her, and then I wake up years from now, and or months or days, and now I realize that you have a child with the woman that I was once in love with, and we're supposed to be Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid. You understand what I'm saying? So that relationship is kind of sticky, and if you can elaborate on that relationship, and how do you think that was maybe a launch pad for the beginning of the separation, mentally, if not physically?
Well, it depends on the way you see it. I don't see it that way at all. As I mentioned to you earlier, Malcolm married Betty January 14, 1958. Evelyn didn't have any children with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad then. When she was in Michigan, and Malcolm called back to the mosque, and Captain Joseph, his captain, he announced to the mosque that Minister Malcolm had just got married to Sister Betty. Evelyn was sitting in the mosque in New York. She jumped up, ran out of the mosque.
Yeah.
So, so he abandoned her.
Sure.
So, you have to look at it from what it is. That wasn't Malcolm's woman. That was someone that he used to date.
Sure.
So he has no rights over her.
Okay.
So I see it different.
Okay. Gotcha.
Minister Farrakhan's son, Joshua, married one Evelyn's daughter, and had 5 or 6 children with her. Sure. They're not married today, but so you look at it, and it is interesting. Minister Farrakhan had written articles and basically said that Evelyn, he didn't allude to her being a prostitute, but loose women. But now, his son married that same loose woman's child. So, you can look at it for different ways, and you just say time makes you wiser. And she's not well as of today, and I pray Allah that she's all right.
Yeah, facts. And how about Ty and Netta? What's your take on Ty and Netta and her relationship with
Ty Netta's another one that we were told was the wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I just found it interesting that if she's the wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, why was she buried in Michigan and not buried with her husband? In 1975, when Wallace D. Muhammad took the rostrum, she was sitting out in the audience with the regular MGT, with her son, Rasul, on her lap, or leaning on her. I don't understand that. If that was your husband, you should have spoke up then. But as I mentioned to you, she went to California with Yusuf Bey at the bakery out there in Oakland. She was staying out there with him. She came back with Minister Farrakhan. She had went overseas. She left her children with Herbert Muhammad's son, Jesus Muhammad Ali, or Herbert Muhammad Jr. He was babysitting them. And it's a lot of interesting stuff. I just find her very, very interesting. I have some literature where they said the boy's birth certificates, she said that she was white and that the father of the child was white, So who knows? Everybody said Tanetta was brilliant, I say she was all right. I don't think she was brilliant, but I think she was all right.
Do you still have that literature of her, the father being white and all that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Are you willing to share that?
I may one day, but like I said, I don't think. Or I don't know yet. I have a lot of personal interviews. I have interviews with William Bradley. I have interviews. There's a lot of things I have that I just will not. I don't see the use of putting it out right now. I just don't. If I leave it for my children, it's another thing. But I have a lot of personal stuff. I've interviewed everybody pretty much. That when I was in search of doing as you're doing your research,
I am.
And you know, as you said with John Ali and Khalil Ali and others, I did my due diligence also. And I mean, some things I was told not to speak of, and some things I gave my word to, but some of them have passed on. And,
sure.
So I was told of murders. I was told of different things, and I just keep them to myself. I go to I'm not going to share that because, number one, even though I may have it on tape, what is the purpose of it?
Well, the truth. I think the truth is important because
the truth is being twisted. People can take a clip. If I play a clip, people can take that same clip and run with it. I had Wallace Muhammad saying himself that when he came into office, he was tricking the people, and he said, I would test them. And they went with that, but if you play that out of context, people will say, I want to hear the whole lecture. I want to hear why he said that, so, I understand that because I would probably say the same thing,
Well, I love your channel, so I'm hoping that you get back to it.
I haven't done anything with it. I put up a few things and then I withdrew because I was very, very critical of Minister Farrakhan because of a personal hurt. I felt that the man didn't do what he said he was going to do. He said any addition, I sat under his feet and heard him say any addition was a subtraction, that he couldn't add a cubic inch to his height. And he said, if you stand for me, what you would do when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad come here. I heard him chastise us in Brooklyn where he said that, don't call me honorable. And then another time he said, I don't want you any time to call me the leader of the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam has one leader. He was, is, and will always be. And that's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's the man I loved and worshipped and not worshiped pretty much, but followed. Minister Louis Farrakhan, who said he was a divine reminder. He reminded us, for those of us who was going astray, he reminded us, he called us back. And for that, he was. But all of this other stuff, the exalted Christ and all of this stuff, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us in his national interview with Buzz Anderson. He said Master Farad Muhammad said that he was the second coming of the Christ. I mean, it's just so many things that, And like I said, you can see things and people evolving and moving on certain things, but I'm not going that road because of the personal psychological depression and stuff that I went through under Wallace Muhammad. I said I would never. I said if I was older, I would have challenged Wallace Muhammad, but I was older with Minister Farrakhan, and I said, I'm not going with that. You're not going to tell me 50 or 30,000 people, 10,000 go to the cemetery, to the Mount Glenwood Cemetery at his funeral, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's funeral, and then you're going to tell me the man is not alive. And then Tanetta and Bernard Cushman and all of them come together with that nonsense about if you can get to the body within 24 hours and he escaped death. And I talked to people who watched this body, from his sons, from Minister Jeremiah's wife, Elizabeth, who Wali and Muhammad's mother, all of them, Sister Raya, all of them had spoken and talked about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and how he left out of here. And please, for you to tell me that he's alive and then this nonsense that about the mothership and all this nonsense, come on, man, stop it. You know, I've heard Minister Farrakhan, as I said, ever since I was a little boy, and he's been after, every president's been after him, Nixon, Reagan, Ford, you can go on and on and on, Bush, Clinton, everyone. He always warning the presidents, always warning them. It's like, enough is enough. You know, a final call means it's the final call. God damn, it's going to be final till another 90 years? Come on. I just can't. Those are the things that I say. You know, I've been down this road. And like I said, I just pulled my show because I said I'm very critical of them and negative. And those brothers who are with Minister Farrakhan, I loved a lot of them. We helped under the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan direction. We helped start and rebuild a lot of these mosques on the East Coast. And so I have affection for them, but I can't go along with some of that nonsense and the L. Ron Hubbard. There's so much stuff that I just decided to leave. And so when you say leave the shows up there, a lot of it was critical of Mr. Farrakhan. And I just felt that I always spoke from my heart, just as I'm doing with you. This is a spontaneous interview. I have no notes or nothing, but I can spew it out because it's in my DNA. It's in me. And I say that to you, that when I was doing my program, I spoke from my heart. And I just don't feel, looking back at some of those broadcasts, that to talk about the Nation of Islam. And then again, I always was trying to show the self-sufficiency, the goodness, the farm, what we did under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but I had nothing new to point to. And so I didn't know where to go with it. And then I just said, I'm not doing this no more. And I just withdrew. And I've been asked to, on many occasions, to put up the shows or do some new shows. And I have actually recorded some shows, but I just never put them up.
Wow.
Because I said I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because, as I said, you see, with just a few minutes, we've been talking. I don't know. It's been a half hour, 45 minutes. I don't even know how long we've been
47
talking.
47 minutes.
Yeah, we've been talking, and I can't sometimes hold my tongue, and I just don't want to say things that are going to rile people up. I'm up in my 60s now, and I just don't need that aggravation. And like I said, I'm not a very depressed as I once was, but I'm not as happy, man. I felt, and this is personal, that I wanted my children, and my children are now, my oldest is going to be 43. I wanted my children to love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and experience the Nation of Islam and its progress. I don't want them involved. I can't find a Nation of Islam that teach anything straight. One man's a son of man. The next one is this one. And then, I don't want them to get involved with that. We had one leader, one teacher, one guide. I mean, come on, and so I understand some of them drifted into rap music. Some of them is doing other things. And I don't have nothing to point to them positively to say, no, leave that alone. This is the way. So all I tell them to do is to put their money away and get into business or get some real estate or do something and do something for yourself. But it's depressing because you give your whole life to something and the good and and it's sad. It is very, very sad. When we were under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, certainly there were homosexuals during that time. Ellis Hazlip and who was it, Jimmy Baldwin and all those guys. the other guy, Malcolm had the bad wrestling, and it was a bunch of homosexuals, but it was different then. Now they got all these letters. They got the homosexuals running the country, basically. You can't say nothing. You look at the news, they put a black man with a white woman or a white woman with a Chinese or Asian, and they subtly doing it. All your weathermen are pretty much gay. I mean, it's just so much stuff that's going on right before our eyes, and nobody says anything, because if you say that, it's homophobic. You know, you can't use the word faggot. You can't say nothing now because you have to be sensitive. And this is made, what to me has made us weak. And that's why you got a whole lot of us walking around, like I said, double earrings and all of this nonsense, because nobody stood up as a man. Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest fighters. You didn't see him wearing no earrings. You didn't see no tattoos all up on him. White man used to brand us. And see, you got me thinking of my show again. See, I got to stop that.
No, and that's right. We got to be men. I'm with you. Oh, man, they done emasculated us so much, man.
They have emasculated so much that we can't even open our mouth. We open our mouth and say something. Somebody say, you know, we used to call a white man the devil because of his deeds. He was evil. He was vile. You know, he was ill. You break down the word there. You backwards. He lived. We could tell you the 6,000 years that he has murdered everybody from lynching and hanging. But now with George Floyd and with Breonna Taylor, we come together for the issue. But this man has never stopped murdering us. These are just some you're highlighting. I mean, from Ernest Seance, we can go all the way back. Clifford Glover in 1973. They have never stopped murdering
Ronald
us.
Stokes.
Ronald Stokes on April 27th, 1962. They have never stopped. They have never stopped murdering us. And but we want to now say that, you know, Dr. Martin Luther King taught us to love everybody. What has that love gotten us? It got us nothing but some knots upside our head, please. You know? Peace is secured through strength. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, make all men and boys join the FOI. Fruit of Islam, the military name given to the training of men who belong to Islam. That was what trained us. That's what had us put a backbone in us. We didn't walk with no bent wrist. We walked with our heads held up, and we didn't carry no weapons. You know, our weapons were the sword of truth that he gave us, that put in our mouth, that took a dead man, took a needle out of his arm. It made him stand up on a perpendicular and stand up there. And that's right. When everybody else stopped speaking, we said, Muhammad speaks.
Right. You know, and does that now, Louis Farrakhan said that Elijah Muhammad is alive. And then he also said on the Phil Donahue show that the Nation of Islam will have white members. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I was there. I was actually at that Donahue show.
Were you?
With me.
I'm surprised you didn't walk out. Or did you?
Well, like I said, there were a lot of things that many of you don't know. Mr. Farrakhan had said that the Nation of Islam decided November the 6th, I believe, in 1983, that the Nation of Islam had convened, and they decided that they were going to back Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson for the nomination, the Democratic Party of to be the president. And I was very close to his East Coast representative. I asked him. He said he wasn't at no meeting. Khalid Muhammad, who was out there in Los Angeles. I asked him. He said he wasn't at no meeting. So I don't know why he said he met with the heads of the Nation of Islam and they decided to. And so that was another thing that he said, run, Jesse, run, Jesse, run, Jesse, run. And I went securing Jesse Jackson. I was with him a few times and doing security. His wife, Jacqueline, I believe, I was with her, securing her while he was doing that, running for the party. But I didn't agree with that. And then when he came to New York, he was on this show with that woman. He had the blue suit on then, Sandy Friedman. And she read a thing that Minister Farrakhan was caught off guard, where he had repudiated him because of a speech that I recorded, that speech live in New York via a conference on June the 24th, 1983, called where he said that that nation Israel, it has not had no peace. He never mentioned the word Zionist. He never called Judaism, that word Judaism, I'm sorry. He never mentioned that or called it no gutter religion. Again, we knew in our lessons what it said when you practicing a dirty religion, but they said it was gutter, and they used that. Jesse, of course, supposed to be his boy. He repudiated him. I didn't agree with that whole Jesse Jackson thing in the first place. I came back to help rebuild the Nation of Islam. we got sidetracked with all these Christians. Minister Farrakhan did a 41-city tour. In Christ, all things are possible in 1981. He went again in 83 with that Christ Imminent Returns. He makes all things new. I was in most of those cities, going with him to Corey Methodist Baptist Church in Cleveland, going with Bible Way Temple in Washington, D.C., just traveling with him in Robert Treat Hotel. Where was we at? In Blue Hill Horizon, I believe, in Philadelphia. And I was just traveling while he was doing that Christ Imminent Return talk. And as I said, you just listen to him. I believe he was getting them because they were his, I just believe that he was getting them because they, Christians, he was getting that dollar. I just believe that's all. It was a money grab. I didn't think any of them was coming to us. And then he would even say the nation wasn't cleaned up enough. We weren't ready enough to receive them. So I'm telling Christians, stay there. In other words, give me your money, but stay the hell there. You know, I didn't agree that. I wanted us to build a nation. We started selling patrons' lands. I can walk you through all this history because I saw us going on down the wrong path.
Sure.
You know, he brought Gaddafi in 85. He brought him in via satellite. We had an international, what they call International Saviors Day. And it's just crazy.
How about the Million Man March?
The Million Man March, I was there, a whole busload of us. The minister that was then in Jersey, we all went and chartered a bus and we went down there together. The Million Man March again. It was like the same as October the 7th of 1985. Minister Farrakhan spoke at Madison Square Garden. He felt for, but others jam-packed. I said to a brother then, I said, and that was on a Monday, October the 7th, 1985. I said, I bet you in 7 days we won't even pack the mosque. And I deliberately went around and counted every head in the temple, number 7. It wasn't 200 people there. Minister Farrakhan did a hookup called the Overwhelming Event on the 13th of October. And I said, you know, the problem was that when they were advertising the Million Man March, they never highlighted the temples. They started with these, what did they call those things? It was some sort of conference, men leadership or local something committees they were doing, they were setting up. But it never meant to nothing. You got 1.5 million people. You know what you could have did with that as far as starting a business. But he went on a friendship tour. They made a DVD to show that he was an international leader in America, a Muslim leader. And it's like a politician thing. But again, I don't want to be totally critical of it because, again, had not I came to help Minister Farrakhan in the rebuilding efforts of the Nation of Islam, I would not have met so many beautiful brothers. And I met so many beautiful brothers because of that. So I am not ungrateful for that. And I'm thankful for that. And I pray Allah. I know he's not in the best health now, Minister Farrakhan. And I pray Allah that he lives a long life. And like I said, his good outdo his bad. But again, I have the right to criticize something that I've spent my whole life in.
Would Elijah Muhammad be pleased with what Farrakhan has done, or would he be disapproved?
I would never speak for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to be honest with you.
Sure.
I would just say it would be interesting. That's all. That's the best answer I can give. It would be interesting. I just know my orders, my instructions was, that he said that he was told. The messenger said, don't change the teachings while I'm gone. So here the man who was introducing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Mr. Farrakhan introduced the Honorable Elijah many times. And he heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about Master Farad Muhammad. He introduced him as Master Farad Muhammad. Now, why are you changing now? His name is Faj. He said, well, where did this come from? You changed things. You moved the Ramadan. You did other things. Like I said, some say it's progress, but Wallace Muhammad said that he had a private meeting with Minister Farrakhan, and he said that he would slowly bring them along into that direction. And not that I believe everything Wallace D. Muhammad say, but I say you don't look at what a man say, you look at what he does. And it certainly seems when you take a man who was Herbert Muhammad's grandchild, Sultan Muhammad, and you make him an imam, and you have to look at the history of that. Herbert Muhammad, we know his history. His son Sultan was made the imam in Washington. His very grandfather, he started disrespecting. Now his son Sultan was his mother. I forgot her name right now. I can't come to me, but she married a white man. So Sultan came up. He died, I believe, at 39 too. But his son Rahman was raised by a white man. You know, I'm like, how is this a black nation of Islam? All these individuals are all up and through the nation of Islam. It makes no sense.
Yeah, you definitely can say cracker. I'm totally comfortable with that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I want to ask you. I want to take it back a little bit, and we'll jump back. But Ola Hughes, you told I heard you on your program said that she was born in 1944.
Was it February 24th, 1944? I believe.
February. I don't know if it's true or not, but I want to ask you.
I have documents. They're wherever they at now. February. I'm going off the top of my head. Let's say she born February 24th, 1944, and she had that boy April of 1960. Kamal.
Yeah.
So I know the age is 15 and 16. I know, but again, if you knew the history of my family and the children that were born at 15, my uncle, who was, he died Nutan Salim, but he was George Forex Walker. He was only 15 years younger than his mother, my grandmother, Sister Lottie, who was Lottie X. So, that's not uncommon in the South, from what I was told. So, I that's all I can say about that.
Do you consider Chicago the South?
Well, you may try to make mockery of it, but what about Prophet Muhammad? Prophet Muhammad had.
I'm against all of it. I'm not advocating on none of that. Well, Zero.
Like I said, some of these women, you have to know their history, and if they was not doing well, and somebody cleaned them up and made them respectable, Kamal, look at his history right now. The son, he's doing very well. Mm-hmm. I forgot what his career is.
He has a nonprofit, correct? He has a nonprofit or something like that.
Like I said, I've been detached from some of this, but I used to know all that stuff. I don't know what he's doing now, but he's doing very well. So you look at the whole thing, and I'm not saying that to knock Malcolm's children, but in comparison, let's look at it. You got one that was alcoholic, the oldest one. We don't know what sexuality she is. You just have a bunch of them. Someone was shoplifters, and the grandson burned up the grandmother. And like I said, I'm not being disrespectful, but when you attack the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or you question it, you have to look at the source. Just look at the source. The one that was born January 17th, 1960, from Sister Lucille. She high ranking in the law enforcement. I mean, I can go through all of the children. Most of them are doing well from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So who are we to criticize? Who are we to even question it? So certain things like that. And like I said, I mean no disrespect to your audience if you play this about Malcolm's children, but the truth is the truth. You want to constantly attack the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the believers, but at the same time, when I say attack, question his character, question his belief, his God. Here's a man who, as I said, he opened our blind, those who was blind, he opened our eyes. He stood us up. He pulled the needle out of our arm, took us out of prison, gave us businesses, people. Where else would Malcolm come out of prison and become a national representative? He did that work. And he said, everything I know I got from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He told the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even when he left in March 12th, he says, I just ran into some obstacles, but I believe I can best serve the Honorable Elijah Muhammad without the restrictions of the Nation of Islam. I'm still your follower. I still believe that you had the best solution. These are things he said. That's what make him a hypocrite, because you say all these things and then you knew about that. Wallace Muhammad said that he really knew about back in 1959. He said Malcolm knew also, but he said we just was afraid to say it publicly, but in their mind. So, you didn't have the balls or you shouldn't say that. You didn't have the gumption to leave then, but because you were silenced for making a statement about John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and he silenced you for 90 days, and then, you lost money in a letter. You said you had lost some money because, those speaking engagements and all these things he was setting up according to the minister that's out there in Los Angeles. You can interview him, Abdul Karim Hassan. He's the imam out there for Master Felix Bilal. He said that Malcolm and God, I can't think of his name. That was the guy who died with the cigarette. He was on the Hate produced. Louis Lomax.
Oh yeah.
Louis Lomax and them, those guys used to go around and stage a lot of those debates, and so you got to take it for what it's worth. They did it for money, and I'm not saying it was anything wrong because truth is truth.
I just believe the truth. Like as you say, every tub has its own bottom. So I would say if Elijah Muhammad had a baby with a 16-year-old, if Elvis Presley had a baby with a 16-year-old, if X had whoever it is, they should be held accountable to the letter of the law. I don't excuse any of it because I have a daughter, and I'll be damned. I don't give, and I say this, I don't give a fuck if your name is Elijah Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha. I'm blowing your fucking head off.
Well, again, that's because you safeguard your daughter. Where was the parents of Ola Hughes? So like I said, some of them, these women were in the streets and they were cleaned up. So
yeah,
you have to
I get that.
I know what you're saying. So here's some of them. You saw that Spike Lee in his movie had I believe it was Teresa Randall, the actress, in the beginning, going down on this devil. It's different things that these women were doing.
Sure, I get it.
Prior to it. So as I said, to say you'll blow a man's head off after he didn't cleaned her up, and like I said, I wouldn't want my daughter to do it either. But again, you have to consider the source. Minister Farrakhan has wives. He's one of his minister's daughters. He married. Or it's a whole lot of stuff that's going on that we.
I understand your sentiment. I just say wrong is wrong. You understand, and on some level, that's mental manipulation. You understand?
I believe I was mentally
16-year-old girl. I think a 60-something-year-old man and 16-year-old girl. I think that's a level of mental manipulation, and on some level, that's, in my opinion, I think organized religion is a form of manipulation. You understand what I'm saying? And some people draw good out of it as well. Some people, like you've gone through a lot of emotions in terms of your relationship with the Nation of Islam. You understand? So there's pluses and minuses with it. So the goal is to take the good about it and apply it to your life, but still don't stray away from truth. And I think that's the problem with people who hold Malcolm X as a god, people who hold Elijah Muhammad as a god, is that they strayed away from truth, because my moral compass don't change. I have a show every night with thousands of people in there, right? My moral compass don't change. If you're wrong, you're wrong. And if Elijah Muhammad was having sex with a 15-year-old and got pregnant at 16, he's wrong. If Malcolm X did a level of manipulation to use the media, and maybe he came out later than what he knew, according to Wallace Muhammad, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. And that's what I believe. And I'm hoping that that this project I'm working on just tells the truth.
Well, like I told some other brothers, everyone has a right to tell their story.
Right. I agree.
One day I may tell my story. And again, everyone has that right. You have that right. The other brothers have that right. And if you feel that way, I can't knock that. That's the way you feel. I just, like I said, I don't worship the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. At one time, I thought he was the closest thing to God. But I know that there's no God but Allah. And I thank Allah. Again, he's the only reality, Allah. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I thank God for him, but I don't worship him. I never worship Prophet Muhammad. I love Prophet Muhammad because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to love and respect him. But I didn't know much. I saw the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when ministers would read letters or tell us that they were getting on a plane to go see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we would say, please give him the greetings. And they come back and say, Elijah Muhammad sends you the greetings, and we would stand and salute, or not stand and salute, but we would say, please return the greetings to their holy apostle. I mean, those were the closest, but that was a reality to me. Right. And like I said, it may have been some manipulation in it. I certainly believe others have taken advantage. Remember,
Thomas Hayers said it. Even Thomas Hayers said it, and his interview in 1980 with I forget who it was, you know who I'm talking about, you've seen it, and he said, and the man asked him, do you feel like you was manipulated? He said yes.
Yeah, well, again, you had people telling you, Minister Farrakhan asked people to leave the fish force. I mean, to leave their job to join and sell fish. You know how many families were broken up because of that? I mean, you leaving jobs where you had benefits and everything to sell in New York, Whiting H&G for 59 cents a pound, and then you still had to meet your quota, 200 and 300 Muhammad Speaks newspapers, give a portion of that to charity, and then try to pay your bills, and you got babies at home. Like I said, I know personally, there were people who were angry when Mr. Farrakhan left here in June of 1975 because they had lost their jobs. And as I said, they had thought that the fish was coming in from Peru, and that we was going to sell it 5 pounds and 10 pound slabs. We got these coolers, you know. It was crazy. It was crazy. I was a part of the fish force too, but I was young, so it was more fun. It was more fun to me than you know, I had a place to stay and didn't have to worry about my parents taking care of me then.
Can you break down the sales of the bean pies and the newspapers? How much goes to you? How much goes to Chicago? How much goes to your temple? Can you break that down for me?
No, I actually can't. I could tell you when I was during the Muhammad Speaks time, we sold a newspaper for 25 cents. And in New York, we paid 21 cents. We got 4 cents off of each paper. That was back then. As far as bean pies, that's just, I don't know if that was sold by the mosque. I don't know how they do it in Los Angeles, but individuals, you could just buy them wholesale and just sell
okay. Them. I got you. So you're responsible for the 21 cents. And that 21 cents
prior to 75.
No, I'm just so I can get perspective. That's all. I'm just using so the audience
when
can get
it first came out. When I was a little boy, it was 16 cents, and it sold for 20 cents, and it came out every 2 weeks.
Got that.
And then it became a weekly paper, and it was 21 cents, and we sold it for a quarter.
And where did the 21 cents go?
You turned it into, when you went to the mosque, you turned it into the secretary or the lieutenant, and what they did with it, they did with it. Remember, the first 5 things on the charity slip went to Chicago, which was, off the top of my head, the number 2 port, the Central Point, and you know. But the first 5 we went to Chicago. Then the bottom 5 was the general treasury and the local stuff went on the bottom of the charity slip, if I recall.
Got that.
We sold record albums too. We sold the Messengers record albums. We sold the books, Message to the Black Man and stuff, and. You know, so you made a few quarters off of those too. So.
What do you make out of the finances about Elijah Muhammad living a great life and financially end up buying a private jet, $1 million home?
I say this to you. In Malcolm's autobiography, I don't know what page it is because I'm going off the top of my head. He said when he was released from prison, he went straight to 4847 South Woodlawn Avenue.
Yeah, sure did.
Chicago. That was the same resident the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had pretty much until 1975. I mean, in 72, they built the place next door and he built those homes. But that was 72, and the Believers wanted to get that for him. He, of course, at 2122 or 2118 in Valley Drive in Phoenix, Illinois, that was another place that the minister, Bashir and them all had found for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There was a musician, Louis Jordan, had it. But that was just the only thing that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he wasn't a man who spent a lot of riches. You know, he wasn't out there traveling. He had his ministers do that. He said he didn't care if it was the president or anyone. They want to see him. They have to come to his residence. You didn't see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad like you saw Minister Farrakhan.
Yeah,
Mr. Farrakhan, Michael Jackson's thing. He married Gladys Knight. He's everywhere. You know, but that's him. He likes that Hollywood life.
What do you make of the private jet?
The private jet was a gift, and think about it. That jet didn't come till 1974.
74.
He was out here at 70.
August 74. August 1974.
Right. In 75, he was out here. They used that jet one time. Not one time.
I get you.
To fly him back from when he got sick in Mexico, and they flew him back. And that was the and that's eventually when he went to the Mercy Hospital. So, Like I said, so I don't think all of that luxury that people think he did. You know, I didn't see it, but I don't know. And if he did, so what? Like I said, there are many, many, many people who did less who have more. One preacher wanted a $60 million jet.
I saw that.
There's a whole,
it's
a whole lot of them who did less.
I saw that.
So that's nothing. That is nothing for him to want that for his family or his followers. I don't see that as not a problem. Like I said, you can't find, to me, many negative things on the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Sure.
He had a parade. He fed everybody for free. He, every Savior's Day when he had the last one, he had the book, Our Savior Has Arrived. He said, you don't pay for nothing. Everything free. Give it to him. He gave it to his followers free. You know, he loved his followers. And like I said, they gave him that crown that he wore on his head. You know, he didn't ask for that diamond and all that. They gave it to him as a gift to believers because they said, that's our king, you know.
How sad were you to see that at the auction?
I was very upset about it. I didn't know about it till the day before. Had I known, I would have taken a pension loan from my job and got it. When I learned it only sold for $27,000, I would have gotten a pension loan and got it. But I learned about it just the day before. And yes, I was sad about it. But that ain't the only thing. I've gotten some material from the family for a few dollars, and some personal stuff that you just don't understand why. Why, you know, this man was a messenger of God, and you just selling it like it don't mean nothing. You
know? How we elaborated on Malcolm's ego and his youthfulness, and how much of an ego do you think Elijah Muhammad had as it pertains to the power the power that was growing? Because it seemed like it kind of took off in the 60s or something like that. And this is just off putting information together and me visualizing, you know, that he's traveling, he's going across the countries and stuff like that, going to different countries.
Who? Malcolm or the Army?
No, Elijah Muhammad. How much?
Well, he wasn't doing that much traveling in the 60s. He didn't. He did in the beginning. He did that trip overseas, but after 64, 65.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He went to those countries. Yeah. And then he would go to Mexico, the Bahamas. You know, he did that.
Well, Mexico, he had a residence there.
Yeah, he did.
You know, remember? Yeah, he had a residence there, so he wasn't traveling a lot. He really wasn't, and he basically was always timely putting out the weekly articles for the paper, the broadcast he was doing in the 60s, and he had to have meetings. He didn't just have meetings with his ministers, but he had meetings with other officials, with sisters, and constantly had to answer letters. He was doing interviews. He was a busy man. He was a very busy man.
Sure.
And like I said, some of you, some give the opinion as if he couldn't, you know, because they got the way he coughing and like he ran the Nation of Islam. He was a one-man operation basically until he became very ill. And Sister Clara Muhammad told Minister Farrakhan, according to him in Florida, that why don't you help my husband? Help my husband. He says, he ain't going to let you, but you help him anyway. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that's the way he was, from what I learned.
Describe Clara Muhammad.
She was the most faithful and loyal wife. She loved her Honorable Elijah Muhammad. She loved him very much. She was the first one to see Master Farad Muhammad before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. She kept the nation together when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did nearly 5 years in Milan, Michigan, when they took him for not going into the draft. She was the one going back and forth, keeping the Nation of Islam together. She's a remarkable woman. She stood in front of the door. She wanted them not to teach and take the children out of the schools and to teach them homeschooling. And she's a remarkable woman. She loved the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
And
she passed away in
1972. Yeah, I see some similarities between, correct me if I'm wrong, with Betty Shabazz and Clara Muhammad as it pertains to them leaving, because I know she ended up leaving to DC. She ended up going to stay with Akbar in another country, stuff like that. And Betty Shabazz actually left Malcolm X. Do you see a lot of similarities in their relationship and the strain that maybe the Nation of Islam put on actual marriage?
I don't see the similarities with Betty Shabazz at all. No. Clara Muhammad, all of that is true. But that is because she didn't understand initially, and she had to get away to clear her head. And so I believe she left. Yes, she went. I forgot the address. 1129. Wherever it was in Northwest Washington. She stayed at that facility. And yes, she went when Akbar was overseas. She went and stayed with him for a while. All of that is true, but I believe that sometimes you just have to get away to think. If as you just mentioned earlier, that you felt that Honorable Elijah Muhammad maybe was manipulating the young girls and all of these things. Sometimes his wife saw him grow. Remember, she saw him from being an alcoholic who she had to go get her brother, his brother and them all to bring him in. She saw him rise to that, and so sometimes, and I have a letter the Honorable wrote. I had written, pardon me, that he told Wallace Muhammad in this letter that your mother don't love me like she once did. He told that. So she harbored some doubt. Maybe she was ready to give up the whole mission because she didn't want to deal with a lot of that. Remember, she was the hostess, opening the door, sitting, hosting. When Malcolm came in, she referred to him as her son. She would sit him down, and she had to talk and be nice and do all of the things as a wife would be. And so she may have felt that maybe people that she had sat and had dinner with was playing her, kind of using that cheap language. And maybe it was that. I don't know. But I don't see the similarities with Betty at all. Betty Shabazz, to me, was just as much hypocritical as Malcolm was, because she had written the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I have somewhere the whole copy of that letter that she had asked the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because she come see him after Malcolm was set down. She says, I love you and the nation, and I need someone to talk to and to understand about my husband. And, I mean, she said charity and all of this. I don't know if Malcolm prompted her to do this. And then when he split, I heard her on either Gabe Pressman or somewhere else. Elijah Muhammad didn't teach Malcolm nothing. Here the man been saying all this time, everything he knew was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I think it was, what was his name? Black News, Bill McCreary show. She said that. And as I said, it's just so much stuff. She, to me, she did lose her husband, and the children suffered and all that. So I just leave it at that. But I have some reservations, and I have actually tried to tell her that in Mega Evans College here in Brooklyn one year.
Oh, dope. Well, she worked at,
yeah, and I walked away when she said, I could tell you a lot about Mr. Elijah Muhammad. I said, and I could tell you a lot about Malcolm, but I was being smart.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Why, and take a step back as you answer this question. Why is there a double standard in Nation of Islam on morality of Elijah Muhammad versus an average man?
Well, because Muhammad is not the father of any of you men, as the Quran teaches us. He's the messenger of God. And so if you ask me, that stands alone, And sometimes it's a do as I say, not as I do, because he knows best. He knows that we couldn't handle it. And, he was never dragged into court, even though there was petitions. They were withdrawn, So he basically, I felt that he could handle it. Maybe he was safeguarding it. How the hell you going to build a nation if everybody's running around with 4 and 5, 6, 7 wives? They got to take care of this, that. They ain't coming out, missing meetings, can't sell the papers, can't do. You got to look at the whole picture. And maybe that's it when you say a double standard,
Okay. That's, you say you interviewed William X. Bradley?
Yeah, that's not for public use, so I'm not.
Oh, it's not?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Are you ever going to release that interview?
I don't think so.
Why not? Out of curiosity.
I will tell you this. I did tell him, and that on behalf of whatever you may have done, I said, I just want to thank you, because had not, the Nation of Islam may have, you may have basically that you helped keep the nation going. That's basically what I said to him, So, but no, I don't know.
And how did he respond to that?
Huh?
How did he respond to that?
He was silent. He wouldn't, he said a few things, but he ain't said, he was silent. You remember, these guys, they don't, there's no statute of limitation on certain things. So
yeah, it's but he's gone. There's no statute of limitations on murder, but he's gone.
Yeah, I interviewed his wife also, and he was there.
What year was this? What year did you interview William Bradley?
probably 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, not that long ago.
Yeah, and I also I interviewed his wife at the first championship gym there in Newark, and he called me, and we had a nice conversation. And because his wife had given me some money to help me with my show.
Oh, that's dope.
She asked me that I want to take some furniture, that I could come and get some of the furniture she had. You know, she had worked with Reuben Hurricane Carter.
Oh, great.
And I was actually, when I stopped my show, before I was working on getting an interview with Reuben Hurricane Carter, and, but he had passed away. I had heard from some individuals who were in prison with him, and they had told me how he was a major homosexual and different things, and I wanted to interview him to find out, but I never did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever interview Thomas Heyer?
I knew him very well. I used to drive him around.
Really?
Yes, sir. I used to drive him around, and I did a documentary, Malcolm X versus the Nation of Islam, The Naked Truth. He was the very first one I took it to. And as I said, I embraced him, and yes. But
how is he doing now?
He had promised me an interview, but he had said that he let him get himself together, and then the press came out with all this stuff on him. And when I saw him again, he said, "Not now." And I said, "All right." I like I said, I knew he had suffered enough, and you know, to hear the same story, I would ask him what happened, and you know, I would ask him, did he know this one and that one? You know, I had showed him some pictures. Carl Evans had asked me to take some pictures, and you know, stuff like that.
How's he doing now?
I don't know. I haven't seen him in years. Last time I seen him actually a couple of years ago.
I know he still lives in Brooklyn.
Oh, I thought he left New York.
Oh, yeah. I heard he still lives in Brooklyn. So
all right. Yeah, he was living in the Sunset section of Brooklyn. I don't know where he's at now. He was at Minister Hamza Al Afis had a janazah at Masjid in Brooklyn, the former 7C, and he was there. Okay. The last time I saw him.
Okay. And what was the conversations like with him in the car? You said you drove him around a lot, and I mean, there's so many obvious questions we never talked about that.
Are you serious? No, we didn't, because I talked about what he was doing. I knew where he was working and all of that stuff. So we used to talk about this. My former partner that I had at my store was working alongside him. This history is deep, brother. This history is deep.
Well, we got to get it documented. You got to get it documented, man. You're the olive branch to history, man.
I gave you an hour now. I gave you a little more an hour now. Like, all I could say is Allah has blessed me to be around a lot of them. I worked with that same sister and brother Minister John Muhammad and his wife, who they said had all those notes from Master Farad Muhammad. I worked with her son, Abdul, at World Trade Center in 1977. You know, so it's a lot of history. It's a lot of history. So I, you know, like I said, I'm pretty much done unless you got something else.
No, I just want to say thank you for your time, John Ali. Real quick, what's your take on John Ali?
I don't believe what everybody else saying about him. As I said, you interviewed him. I've interviewed him. I've known him for years. I knew his wife, knew his children. We talked to him. You know, he actually, last time I spoke to him was probably a few months ago. He invited me to Chicago and told me to come stay with him. And, you know, and I told him that we'll see. But I have no intentions with this pandemic. I'm not going to Chicago. And but I like him. You know, I like him, and you know, of course, he was a rascal when he was in the nation, but he had to do his job. He had to get that money. So if you hear him in the labor's meeting tapes, they're talking about this one, that one. Malcolm said he had a problem, and in one of his letters, he said, "I did have a problem with John Ali." He said in a letter to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They used to actually share a place together, and you know, it's a lot of history with that. But I like John Ali. I think that he told me he wants to live to be 100 years old.
He's 94. He's 94.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said if he could live, he born November the 3rd, you know, a day before me. And you know, he used to tell me that that's what he would like to do. And like I said, you know, I like John Ali. I like him. Like I said, he shares a lot. And, you you know.
Yeah. I had a great time with him. I spent literally 10 hours with him. About 2 Sundays ago, 2 or 3 Sundays ago. I flew to Chicago just for a day, just to end him because he's 94. I don't think I'll be able.
He took you to that restaurant.
Exactly. Yeah, we went to the Indian restaurant. We spent the day there. He was so happy, man. He was just happy to get out the house, man. He's been living in that place for 40 years, man.
Yeah, studio apartment.
Yeah, the studio apartment. The bed folds up and everything, man. And he's satisfied living a humble life.
Listen, let me say this since you mentioned that. Him and John, did he tell you him and Jeremiah was close in Philadelphia?
John who?
Jeremiah. Did John Ali tell you that him and Jeremiah both were from Philadelphia?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He told Jeremiah and then the connection to Malcolm X. Yeah, go ahead. But feel free to talk about it. Yeah.
Jeremiah was nearly the same, too. When I went to his home in Philadelphia, they kept saying American gangster. This man had all of this and that. I've had meals with him where I picked up the tab a few times and been to his home. I said, if he made some money, I sure don't know where he did it, what he did with it,
Yeah.
And I'm not being smart, but here they kind of say he ran all of this, he did all of this. And I know when he came to New York, he had a place on Sutton Place and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see it. So as I said with Malcolm, I can only go by what I see. And Jeremiah was just as humble as well. I could ask him any question, but I didn't have a television show then.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
asked other things, about Mosque Number 12, and he would tell me how they was out doing New York, and he was more talking that stuff, and I enjoyed it listening to him.
Yeah. I also interviewed Bob Arum. Bob Arum is basically a friend of mine because I work in boxing, and he was telling me stories.
Oh yeah, well then that's good. You did that. I didn't know you worked in boxing.
Yeah,
that's good because he told you how John Ali in the main bout and all of that.
Yeah, main bout. Yep, main bout. And how they used to go in the back and flip the money, and John Ali was responsible to getting the money to Chicago. It was a 50-50 split. Herbert Muhammad was the manager. He was the promoter, and they basically ripped Muhammad Ali off. You know what I mean? So
it ain't funny. It's not. Not funny.
No, it's not funny. But what I'm saying, you're absolutely right. I shouldn't have laughed. That's basically the truth, and I don't know what Elijah Muhammad did with the money, Herbert Muhammad or John Ali did with the money, but John Ali was the enforcer. Basically, he made sure he counted every penny.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, they definitely did their thing on Ali.
Yeah.
No.
Khalil Ali spoke eloquently about that. You know what I mean? About how, but she did say Elijah Muhammad, when he was from 67 to 70 was the years where he wasn't working, he afforded them a loan and or cash to supplement their lack of income.
Yes, he did, up to over $100,000. That's correct.
Yeah, and they paid it back.
She told you that her father, she didn't go to college because she had the money was used to take care of, because he didn't have any income coming in.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love Khalil Ali, and the only sensitive thing I have that I can't really go into because she kind of brushed me off was them twins and them marrying them Caucasians. And I was like, I don't understand that, but then when you really look at it, what is there to be understood? You know? They really was babies when they on Elijah Muhammad left, and Wallace came in with his madness and the whole humanity and that stuff.
Okay.
So, but as black as Ali, used to talk and proud of that, to have all of them. I forgot the lady who became his manager that was living with him, pretty much that white woman, and between you and I, it's a podcast.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it alone. That's it. But, it's just so much.
Yeah.
So much.
No, it is a lot, and I'm hoping to document all this. I want to talk to you after I end it, man. But I appreciate you coming on, man. This was damn, man. You are a wealth of information. My heavens, you should. I'm showing the people my. Well, they're not here yet because it's private, but I'm showing them all the notes I took during this interview, and
So what? Like I said, if it is, if you could just shoot me a email or something. and I hope to hear it. I don't know.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna send it to you. I'm definitely gonna send this to you. It's private now. If I release, I don't know if it may be too big.
No, wait till you get ready to hear it.
Okay. Okay.
Because I don't know if you break it up and make it a 2-part. I don't know how you do your show.
Yeah. No. And I'm using this for a film as well. You understand? And it's gonna be pros and cons, good and bad. You know, it's gonna take you through emotions. You know, because I'm real neutral on Elijah Muhammad, but I'm not neutral on Malcolm X. You get what I'm saying? So, because I grew up in Harlem, so and all my aunties, my great aunts, my grandmother, all got a chance to hear Malcolm X speak. You know, so I grew up off of those stories. You understand what I'm saying? So, and that's all, and that's what I know. So I was just real excited. You know, I called the number on your show. I emailed the AOL email address. I did it all, man, trying to get a hold of you.
I'm not in New York now. I'm in North Carolina.
Oh, you're in UNC. Okay, beautiful.
North Carolina right now. I'll be here pretty much now from now on. I go back to I have a place in New York as well, but I have a home here in North Carolina. This is where I'll be pretty much now. So we'll see.
Appreciate you, and I appreciate you coming on, Mr. Shabazz, and I will gladly send you a copy. Hold on one second. I want to talk. Let me end it real quick.
All right.